OK, salut tout le monde. On va commencer et les autres peuvent nous joindre pendant la séance. Première question, est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un qui ne parle aucunement anglais? And I'll ask the same thing in English. Hi, everyone. I just want to know, is there anyone who does not speak French at all on this call? OK, on est bilingue. Fait que la séance va se donner en franglais. Alors, il y a quelques diapos qui sont en français, quelques diapos qui sont en anglais. So there are a few slides that are in English, a few slides that are in French, and we will kind of go through that tonight. So without further ado, welcome everyone to the team management workshop. So today, what we will be essentially going through is really bringing you through how to manage your team for the competition, how you should structure your team, how you should work throughout this season to be able to kind of deliver something at the competition. So basically what we need to do is think of the competition or the season as a whole as a project. So what we'll go through today is basically the top principles of project management. There's the structure, the definition, the goals, all about transparency and risk recognition, managing all of the project disturbances that can happen, which is a lot given the current situation as well. Going through the responsibility of the project manager, and then what entails project success. So basically, for the project structure, faut vraiment avoir une structure au projet. Premièrement, il faut avoir un moyen de communication efficace. Alors, des moyens de communication efficaces, c'est des applications comme Slack, comme un groupe Facebook avec tous les membres de ton équipe. Il y a des applications Twist et Discord aussi. Il y en a bien plus, mais c'est vraiment les 4 qu'on recommande. Plutôt Slack et Discord aussi, c'est les 2 applications qu'on utilise à la CRC aussi à l'interne. Fait que c'est vraiment des bonnes applications pour communiquer d'une manière efficace avec ton équipe au complet ou bien les parties des équipes qui vont se concentrer sur certaines composantes de la compétition. Des choses à éviter, c'est des groupes, des conversations par genre Messenger ou des conversations par texto entre 2 personnes ou bien juste des conversations en présentiel, sans trace de notes, sans compte rendu d'un certain réunion ou quoi que ce soit. C'est malheureusement la façon que les choses se font communiquer de la mauvaise façon, ou bien il y a des malentendus ou quoi que ce soit. Fait qu'il faut vraiment éviter ça, puis plutôt utiliser des applications qui vont vous permettre de communiquer avec votre équipe au complet et d'avoir tout par écrit aussi. Fait que c'est vraiment un point de référence pour vous aussi. Faut aussi comprendre le timeline de ton projet. Fait qu'il y a des dates de soumission, il y a une date pour la compétition aussi. Fait qu'il faut vraiment garder ça en tête quand vous travaillez, parce que en fait, le but, c'est d'arriver à la date de soumission ou bien avant la date de soumission, ayant tout fini. Another really good point is work with your strengths to achieve the project milestones. So every little bit, you know, if you're strong in that particular component or that particular subject, you may want to take that on. Whereas if you're not as strong, or maybe you're not as, I guess, independent in that particular component, maybe you can ask for help from another team member or from your mentor or whatnot. The biggest, I think the 2 biggest tips that I can give, honestly, is to first start early. It's something that we take for granted. every year, you always kind of sit together and you say, okay, we're going to start right now. And then other stuff happens. You don't actually get started until the holidays or until break. And that's what kind of delays the project. So if I have any tip for you this year, it's going to be to start early. It's even more important this year with COVID. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen next week. We don't know what's going to happen next month. So if you can get in as much of the work as you possibly can right now, then you'll just be ahead of the game at the end of the day. And lastly, you heard it during the kickoff as well, check manager several times a week. I mean, we do post new updates. Some weeks we will have more updates than others, but if you make it a consistent effort to check manager, or maybe you have one person dedicated or two people dedicated to logging into manager, let's say 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, let's say. And so if you have that kind of diligence, then you'll get all of the updates very, very quickly, and you'll be able to adapt as well. So again, us as well, we're keeping up with the guidelines as well. If we have to change something because of a particular restriction, because of COVID, then that's how we're going to basically communicate it to you guys, is through manager. There will be formal emails through the mentors, but we know that sometimes that email could take a bit of time to kind of get to the entire team. So you all have access to manager. It's one global login for your entire team. So everyone should have the username and password. Everyone on your team should be able to log into manager and check for those updates. So that's really one of the most crucial things of starting a project, is really to be diligent, to check for updates, to make sure you know the deadlines, have a calendar, have the deadlines on a calendar, work backwards as well from the competition day to figure out when you have to start stuff, when you have to finish stuff, and you will definitely be ahead of the game for all of that. For a project definition, so again, in a true project management atmosphere, this is actually the phase where a lot of things go wrong. So a lot of things get miscommunicated. People don't necessarily know exactly what to expect, or they don't necessarily get involved too much, or the correct people aren't actually involved enough. So a successful definition of a project does need to involve the entire team. So you need to kind of all sit down together, talk about exactly what you want to achieve this year, and really make sure that everyone is aligned on that. Everyone agrees to this specific series of events, this specific way of working, this specific way of going forward as well, and that they commit to the project. The worst thing, obviously, is to lose people along the season. So, of course, people get busy. People have personal engagements and whatnot. That's completely normal. But we need to make sure as well, if you're part of the team, that you're committed to this project, or in this case, the competition. And of course, you need to read the rule book. We can't stress that enough. We know it's a lot. We know it's 50 something pages, but it's honestly structured in such a way that each section is really within its own section. So every component is within its own section. So if you are part of the robot team, you may just have to read the game and robot sections. If you're part of the video team, maybe you just need to read the video section. If you're part of the website team, you just need to read the website section. So it's really laid out in such a way that you don't necessarily need to read all 50 something pages unless you have structured your team in such a way that everyone does everything. But even at that point, you can definitely have certain leads and people reading certain sections instead of one person reading all 50 something pages. Especially this year, we've made a lot of changes to the rules themselves. We've removed a lot of the criteria in the video and the website sections and kind of made it more marketing oriented. So you really do want to read those sections specifically. And we have also replaced the kiosk component this year because of COVID. So you really do want to read that section as well. It's completely revamped. It's completely new. So those are the three main sections, I would say, that have a lot of changes. And then, of course, the game and the robot, you'll definitely need to read to make sure that you build a robot that can actually play this year's game and that you understand how the game is laid out so that you can develop the strategies for that. Alors, les buts pour les projets. Il faut vraiment définir des buts avant de commencer le projet. Fait que si vous ne l'avez pas encore fait, je vous suggère de tout vous asseoir, toute l'équipe, et bien définir toutes les tâches, tous les buts que vous voulez acquérir cette année. Alors, premièrement, il faut s'assurer que chaque coéquipier comprend clairement les tâches qu'il a à faire. C'est ce que je disais, en fait, c'est chaque personne aura une tâche ou une certaine tâche à faire pendant la saison. Il faut vraiment que tout le monde se comprend, tout le monde est aligné sur qu'est-ce qu'il faut faire. Comme ça, on n'attribue pas des tâches à des gens qui ne vont pas nécessairement livrer ces tâches-là. Alors, il faut attribuer les tâches en vraiment expliquant les objectifs clairement. Il faut valider la compréhension des coéquipiers, s'assurer que tout le monde est aligné et aussi les attribuer selon les compétences ou bien la motivation, comme je disais. Fait que s'il y a quelqu'un qui peut juste passer une journée par semaine en robotique, ben, ça se peut qu'on ne lui donne pas nécessairement une tâche qui doit se faire puis qu'on doit passer plus qu'un jour à faire pour vraiment le finir à temps. Aussi, faut faire des suivis fréquents. Fait que je vous suggère aussi de faire des réunions peut-être à chaque semaine ou bien plusieurs fois par semaine. Le plus qu'on avance à la compétition, le plus que vous devriez vous rencontrer pour s'assurer que tout est fait. Puis s'il y a quelqu'un qui peut malheureusement pas finir sa tâche ou quoi que ce soit à cause de raisons personnelles ou quoi d'autre, il y a quelqu'un qui peut le prendre puis qui peut le finir à temps aussi. Faut nommer des leaders. Oui, on n'aime pas nécessairement avoir des leaders dans des équipes. On veut tous travailler ensemble, être au même niveau. Mais en fin de compte, il faut vraiment avoir des leaders justement pour être responsable de tout ce qui sera livré. Alors, pour une équipe débutante, en fait, pour quelqu'un qui n'a jamais participé à la compétition de CRC ou peut-être qu'une équipe qui est nouvelle, il y a des nouvelles membres à l'équipe. Ça se peut que vous ne savez pas nécessairement qui devrait être un leader. Je vous suggère peut-être de parler avec votre mentor à ce moment-là, de vraiment nommer un leader parce que ça va être aussi quelqu'un qui sera le point de contact aussi avec la CRC peut-être. Au lieu qu'une vingtaine d'étudiants d'une même équipe demandent la même question à la CRC, ça serait peut-être efficace d'avoir un leader qui sera le point de contact, qui irait demander à la CRC des questions, qui irait poser des questions à la CRC, avoir des réponses et justement retourner à l'équipe avec les réponses de la CRC. Et bien sûr, on s'attend à ce que personne n'oublie les tâches et que tout soit fait à l'heure et à temps. Je vous suggère aussi, comme je disais, il faut travailler vraiment avec les forces des gens. Fait que je ne vous suggère pas de nécessairement attribuer des tâches d'une façon aléatoire. Il n'y a pas de contexte à ce moment-là, puis on n'utilise pas nécessairement les forces des gens pour compléter la tâche. S'il y a quelqu'un qui est vraiment forte en, disons, programmation, ben peut-être qu'on lui met dans un composant de programmation ou bien une tâche qui nécessite la programmation, puis on ne lui mettra pas nécessairement sur, disons, quelque chose qui a besoin du marketing ou de l'écriture ou quoi que ce soit. Donc, il faut vraiment vous rencontrer tous ensemble, puis voir les forces de tout le monde, puis attribuer les tâches à ce moment-là. Aussi, je vais juste prendre une petite pause. Si vous avez une question, vous pouvez m'arrêter. Il n'y a pas beaucoup de gens sur l'appel, fait que ça me dérange pas si vous vous mettez sur unmute puis que vous posez une question. So I'm just going to say that in English as well. We're not a lot of people on this call, so if you do have a question or a comment or anything like that at any moment, feel free to unmute yourself and just kind of interrupt me. I don't think we really need the raise hand function or anything like that. We're not a lot of people, so don't be shy. Okay, the next principle of project management is transparency. So first of all, again, like I've been saying, it's regular team meetings. Meet once a week, meet multiple times a week, but really make sure that everybody knows when is the meeting. So if you're going to say we're meeting every Tuesday after school or every Tuesday and Thursday after school, everyone really needs to make sure that they are available on that day. And if they're not, then maybe they say, well, Tuesday doesn't work for me. Let's see if there's another day. You have to agree all together, because it's also not fair to that person that may not be available on, let's say, that Tuesday in my example, that they miss a bunch of the meetings for a personal reason. So that's one point. Also maintain a detailed to-do list, like really detailed. It could be also in Excel. It could be using a tool for a to-do list. It can be used, you can use something like Trello, which if you don't know what it is, it's basically a very agile approach to project management. It's basically different boards, and you have to do, in progress, done. You can add your own columns as well. Like you can add a nice to have column, or you can add a to do later column or whatnot. It's really, you can personalize it as well. And you would have basically little boxes in each of those columns that would be your to-do items. So you would have, let's say, buy, I don't know, buy duct tape from Canadian Tire, or you can have write content for homepage of the website, or you can have read tutorial or read wiki article #1 on programming or whatever. So it's really detailed to that extent. It's not a box that would be like build robot. It really has to go more granular than that. And the good thing about Trello is that you can actually assign it to someone. So again, when we said assigning tasks, you can actually assign it to a specific person and do follow-ups with that person and whatnot. So I won't, I'm not doing an advertisement for Trello. It's something that we use, and that's why I'm putting it out there. But there are so many other tools that you can use instead of Trello that are for project management as well. If you just go on Google and type in project management applications, or even agile project management applications, you'll find some are for free, some you do have to pay a specific membership. So it's really up to you guys and your team how you want to manage that. I don't really condone using Excel, but it is a way to do a to-do list as well. If you are using Excel, though, just make sure that you're very organized. Make sure that there's one item per line. Make sure that you have the columns to have, you know, the task, the description, the person that is accountable or responsible for that, the due date as well. So just if you are going to use Excel, just make sure that you have all of the columns necessary to actually track that and monitor it. Again, your team leaders will be accountable for those deliverables. So before, when I was saying that you should have team leads, again, nobody necessarily likes to be told what to do, but at the end of the day, if you do consider it a project, the team leads should be accountable for those deliverables. So usually you do have a team captain. That person can be considered your project lead. I do also suggest that if you are one of those teams that has sub teams, so not everybody works on everything and you have dedicated people to work on specific components, that you can have a team captain, an overall team captain, but I would suggest to to nominate a leader for each component. So if you have a website team, nominate a leader for the website team. If you have a video team, nominate a video team lead. So really make sure that each component, if you are one of those teams that has sub-teams, has a leader, and those people are going to be accountable for the deliverables. One thing that we cannot quote enough, especially this year, is don't be afraid to ask for help or guidance. It's always been the case, honestly. We've always been here. Your principal, your mentor, your teacher, there's a reason why your school is participating in the CRC. It's because your mentor and your teacher and overall the school administration believes in the competition and believes in what it can teach you. So they are there basically to answer any questions that you may have, guide you in any way that you may need to actually succeed in the competition. And at the end of the day, we're always here as well to help you as much as possible, guide you, give you as much support as you need, especially this year because it is a tough year with COVID. I mean, we're going all out with webinars and workshops to help you guys. I really do recommend that you go to each and every webinar, or at least that a member of your team is present at each and every webinar. And if you cannot make it to the webinar, they are all recorded and will be posted afterwards. But I do recommend that at least one person is present at the webinar, because that's where you can actually ask questions and have a more interactive approach than just listening to a video afterwards. We also have a growing wiki. So as you heard at the competition, there will be wiki articles posted on almost every component of the competition. There will be tutorials and just kind of a step-by-step processes as well. So the articles are not all there right now. They will grow as we kind of move through the season, but it is going to be a point of reference for you. And again, what I like to say all the time is we don't know what we don't know. So we don't know if you are having trouble or if you need support if you don't tell us. So tell us, let us know. It can be through manager, or it can be through an email if you want it to be more private. It can be through any one of our social media channels if you want it to be private as well. Like, we're pretty much everywhere, and you can contact us at any point in time, and we'll work with you. We'll work with your school. We'll work with your team to make sure that we give you all the support that you need on pretty much any component of the competition. The same goes for the mentors as well. So the mentors have been told as well that if they do need support from a school or administration level, they can reach out to us. We're really here to support the schools, especially at this point in time when it's very, very difficult for everybody and everything's changing pretty much daily at this point. So risk recognition. It's very important, as much as we don't want to admit it. It's very important to understand that every project has risks. So it is the responsibility of the project manager to analyze the risks. So this will be your team leads, or even your team captain if you're one of those teams that does everything. So we really do need to analyze the risks and also determine the impacts. So I put here a couple of risks that are maybe specific to the CRC and that could arise. So the first one is being unable to finish the website and video on time. So my suggestion and my recommendation is submitting something is better than nothing. So I will give you guys a sneak peek as to how ranking works. Basically, within CRC, if you do not submit anything for a component, let's say you don't submit video, you get a 0 rank because you didn't submit anything. But if you submit something, even if it's incomplete, or even if not all of the criteria is met, then you have a possibility of actually making a ranking from 1 to however many schools we have. So let's say we have 18 schools. Well, even if yours is considered the worst video because it's incomplete, it doesn't meet all of the criteria, or none of the criteria, or only meets really the basics, the primary requirements, then you may be number 18, but it's better than being 0, because your 0 counts for absolutely nothing in your ranking, in your overall ranking, whereas your 18 will actually count for something. So that's just one tip for you guys as well. Also, if you have to choose, if it comes to a point where you have to choose between working on your website and working on your video, I would suggest working on your website, because your website is 2 components of the competition and your video is just 1. So website, if you don't submit a website, you automatically get 0 in both website content and web design. So that's 2 components where you're not in the ranking at all. You have basically nothing for those components. So if it comes to that point where you have to pick and choose, because that is a risk, at some points you do have to make trade-offs, I do suggest working on your website over your video. But if you do follow all of these principles, you should be able to do both. The second risk that could arise is being unable to upload the video to YouTube. So that's one of the requirements. It does need to be on YouTube to be judged. If it's not on YouTube, if it's on any other kind of program, or you just kind of submit an MP4 file, like it's not gonna work. It's not going to be considered as a legitimate submission. So what I do suggest is to start well before the submission deadline. It could take more than half an hour to upload your video. So the deadline is at 11:59:59. So don't start at 11:58 or 11:59. Don't even start at 11:45. I would honestly suggest that you start as early as possible. You know, if you are making last minute updates, that's fine. I would say by 11 o'clock, you should be uploading your video to YouTube. Also, the actual submission platform is open about a week before the submission deadline. So you do have actually a week to submit your video. If you decide to upload your video to YouTube and submit it, and then you realize that there's a mistake or you want to change something, you do have until that deadline to make any changes. So if you can submit more than once, and your last one will be counted. So just make sure that the last one at the deadline is actually the good one that you're going to submit. And the third risk is being unable to meet due to COVID-19 guidelines. So we know that's already in effect. We know that's already happening, that people can't necessarily meet in person, or there's restrictions. You have to be 2 meters apart. There's not as many people that can meet at the same time. So really, my suggestion here is to, again, start early and focus on the things that you can do remotely. So one of the main reasons to creating the game the way we did this year is because there's more of a focus on programming than there is on robot construction per se. Yes, you still do need to build a robot, but the focus is more on programming than anything else. And the reason we did that is because programming can be done remotely. You can hop onto a Zoom call or a Discord call if you're going to use Discord, like I mentioned. So you can actually work on that remotely, even just sharing your screen. Whereas in prior competitions, the real focus was on robot construction, and you had to meet to do that. So just something to keep in mind, that there is a lot of stuff that can be done remotely. No, maybe the robot construction can't be done remotely. Unfortunately, there's no one real answer for that. You need to kind of work with what you have. We have kind of reached out to some schools. We know that some schools are handing off the robot to one another. So basically one person kind of works on one part of the robot, and then they meet and exchange the piece or the part that they're working on, and the next person will work on another part of that, or they will all work on separate parts and then just meet very safely at the school or somewhere else to kind of put everything together. So it really depends on how you're going to work within your teams, but those are some of the things that you can keep in mind. And like I said, I mean, this year the competition is going to be virtual, but showing up to the competition with something is better than nothing. Show up and participate. Manager is there. The forum is there as well. A lot of the schools are very keen on helping each other. So if you do have questions or whatnot, don't be shy to ask them through manager. And it's very likely that a school will answer you and help you through that. Or obviously, like I said, the CRC is there as well to help you guys out. Managing project disturbances. So again, it's something that we kind of went through in the previous slide. Again, some people have personal engagement. Sometimes something's come up. They can't necessarily be involved as much anymore. They need someone to take over what they were doing. That's okay. It's okay to admit that you can't finish something because of personal reasons or just because it's too complicated and you need some support or some help from your team members. Ultimately, you guys are a team. So if you do need help, it is, your team should be there to help you out. Okay, responsibility of the project manager. So again, the project manager here is what we call the team lead or the captain in some situations. So when you're choosing your team lead, it's very important, not to say that not anyone or not everyone can be a team lead. It's very true. There are a lot of people within the team that can be a team lead. When you are kind of selecting your project manager or someone to be that team lead, just keep in mind a couple of these points. Doesn't necessarily mean that if someone doesn't have these, they can't be the team lead. Not at all. It's just within project management. Usually we look for these when we're looking for someone to be a project manager at a company. So first of all, the key is the knowledge of whatever they have to do. So it could be of the technology, it could be of the process, it could be of whatever they need to actually do that task or do or lead that component. So they really do need to have that advanced knowledge of whatever they're trying to do. If it's if you're looking for someone to lead video, well, it should be someone who knows how to create a video, who knows maybe how to do special effects, or who knows how to do a storyline. If you're looking for someone to do website content, you need to look for someone who maybe is bilingual or at least has some common knowledge of how to market a company, or not a company exactly, but market themselves or market a particular object or product. Understanding management concepts. So again, someone needs to be there. The lead is there to be that point of contact. They need to be able to put their foot down sometimes. They need to be able to say it how it is and make sure that they understand that they are the ones who are accountable and responsible for this. Interpersonal skills and clear communication. So the best thing you can have in a project manager is someone who communicates. Sometimes it's really it's really annoying, someone who communicates all the time and tells you everything. But honestly, as a project manager and as a lead, that's something that you need. And that person will need to communicate more than less. So if someone isn't super good at communication, maybe they're not necessarily the right person to be your lead. And the ability to see the project as a whole system. So again, going back to having leads for different components, those leads need to understand and see how their component fits into the big picture of the CRC competition. So they can't necessarily just be focused on their website or their robot. They need to see how this is going to fit into an entire competition of multiple different components. Also, something that I thought of actually just when reading about the communication skills. So nothing restricts you actually from having a technical lead and a quote unquote business lead. So you can have a technical lead that is very knowledgeable about what they need to do, or what is the task at hand or the component at hand, and someone who may be more communication focused and maybe more marketing focused and business focused, that could also be your second lead. So you could have co-leads in that sense, where someone is more on the technical side and another person is more on the administration or operations side. If your team is big enough to do that, then you can definitely do that. And your operations or admin lead basically will be in charge of everything communications related, will be the go-to person, let's say for the to-do list. They'll manage and handle the to-do list. But your technical lead will really be focused on making sure that every aspect of that component that they're leading is done, and is done to a degree that is, I guess, not extensive, but is very professional and very advanced. So basically that's really the responsibilities. And then we get into pretty much the last principle, which is project success. So project success, and a lot of people don't necessarily think of project success as being anything more than finishing and doing something properly. And in this case, if it's a competition, then winning. But there are multiple different ways to think about project success. So first of all, the students, so you guys are happy with the work you've done. You guys are satisfied and very motivated to actually do that work, and you're happy with the end result. Your mentors and your teachers are happy with the work you've done. So remember, the CRC is very much focused on students doing everything. So the mentors and the teachers are there to guide you and provide support, but everything that you compete with is done by you. But at the end of the day, your mentors have seen you grow through the competition. So it's something that they will be happy with as well. The solutions and strategies chosen worked during the competition, or they were changed in order to meet the objectives. So basically, we've seen this time and time again, students coming to the competition and they play the first couple of games. They realize, oh, our strategy is not necessarily working. We should change X, Y, Z. And they change those and come back the following day or in the following heats and really just kill it, basically, because they've seen what other schools have done. They've seen what hasn't worked for them and what did, and they've kind of leveraged that to make changes to their robot at the competition. Obviously, this year it's going to be a little different since it won't be in person, but we will be, there will be ways to see what the other schools have done at the competition. So that comment still definitely stands to see what works for you guys. I would, again, mention that you should be not finishing your robot the day before the competition. You should be finishing a couple weeks before, so that you have time to test it and to make sure that it works and that everything is actually working the way you want it to work. And you can also make like little tweaks after that. The fourth one is something that is never thought of, but it is actually one of the ways you can monitor success, is that you had fun throughout the season and throughout the competition. So having fun means you're actually enjoying something. And when you enjoy it, you tend to be successful at it. So that's why one of the concepts of project success is that you have fun. And that you were able to learn from other teams or even from yourselves as well. If you come out of it actually learning something and doing something with that knowledge, then that's definitely a success. And of course, like I said before, success really does not mean winning at all. You don't need to come in first to say that the competition was a success. If you've kind of gone through 1 to 6 and you've answered yes to every one of those, then your project or the competition was a success for you guys. And that's honestly it in terms of team management. I mean, if you really follow project management, you think of this as a project and you follow all of these principles, you'll definitely come out ahead of the game. You'll definitely come out of this being successful. And like I said, another reminder here to remember to check manager, have people dedicated to checking manager so that you're always up to date on any new stuff that we post. We do also post on Facebook and occasionally on Instagram as well. So those will be any big news or anything like that will definitely be posted on our social media as well. But for you guys, manager is really the portal to the competition. So just make sure that you guys check that. And with that, are there any questions or comments, questions, commentaires? J'ai parlé plus en anglais, j'ai réalisé, mais bon. Questions, commentaires? OK, alors. OK. Alors, s'il n'y a pas de commentaires ou de questions, on va terminer ça là. So if there's no questions or comments, we will end here. Thank you, Amy. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So I hope you guys learned something. Again, if ever there's anything, if you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to reach out, manager or social media or email. We are always here and we will be able to answer any of your questions. And if it's something very, very specific that you don't necessarily want to say on manager because it's a public forum and it's all of the other schools are going to see it, feel free to send us a message either through email. So our shared email to reach all of the team is info.crc@sciencetech.ca. So I will actually put it in the chat for you guys. So very, very simple, and you can kind of, oh, merci Alex. You can actually reach out to us through there if you have a very specific, let's say, design question or something that you want to do that you don't necessarily want to tell the other teams that you're doing. Feel free to send us an email or social media. And anything related to the game or questions on specific components, feel free to put them on manager on the forum and we will answer. And it, more often than not, if you have a very general question about the competition or about a specific component, the other schools or the other team members are thinking the same thing. So don't be shy to post that publicly on manager. And apart from that, I will let everyone go then. So have a really good evening, everyone, and have a really good season. And keep on track with manager to see all of the other webinars that we have planned this year. Thanks, guys. Merci.